Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm down here on a kind of warm and sticky Costa del Sol again today. The temperatures seem to be going up and down a bit, but the humidity's back today, so we're probably all a bit sweaty. I'm glad you can't actually sense that over the radio waves, at least. I am delighted to be joined by two friends of mine today, Alison and Steve Hyatt. Welcome to the two of you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Uh, Now, I do hope you're going to behave yourself, Steve. You know, you've got a bit of a reputation for being outspoken, you know?
Surely not.
Just telling the truth.
Yeah, people have died for telling the truth, Steve. No, no,
Yes, I know.
listen, you guys have spent a lot of your lives, if not for you, Steve, just about all of your life in the whole restaurant business. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. I've worked in it for 55 years, but my parents and grandparents, it goes back to 1760 in my family.
1760.
Yeah,
Right.
we can trace it all
Okay.
the way back.
That's impressive to know, actually. Okay. First of all, let's just talk a little bit about yourselves so that people know who they're listening to. Where are you from originally, Steve?
Um, well, I was born in Tidworth military barracks.
All right. Okay.
My dad was in the SAS at the time.
Right.
And then, of course, when he came out of the army, they leased a pub from my grandparents. And from there, then I've just moved about all the while, really. I don't really have a hometown as such. Probably
No,
Leicester's probably about it, but
but that's very common for children of military parents, isn't it? It's like, where do you
yeah,
come from? And they say, I don't know.
yeah, it is. Yeah.
And
But
what about,
yes, I've moved about a bit now. I've lived in several different countries, and
yeah.
I was on the QE2 for 4 years, an apprentice on there. So I've just
I,
always moved about.
we're gonna come to that in a moment, Steve. Alison, what about you? What are your origins?
My origins are very different to Steve's because I was born and bred in Paisley and didn't leave there till I was 21. So,
Right.
so
So
yeah,
for those who don't know, Paisley, the sort of kingdom of Paisley, and on in the west of Scotland, pretty much,
yes,
isn't
west
it?
of Scotland.
Yeah, because I live not very far away from Paisley for a number of years, um, in this place you couldn't find if you were looking for it, called Kilmacombe.
Oh yes,
Oh, you.
and lots of relatives that live there.
Yes, yeah, it's kind of 6 miles from the nearest village, which was Bridge of Weir, and another I can't remember 10 miles or something onto the motorway. It was kind of in the back of beyond. So you're a Paisley girl and you're a barracks boy then, Steve, yeah?
Mhm.
And how long have you guys been together?
Not very long, about 36 years nearly.
Did he get that right, Alison?
Yes, he did. Yeah, yeah. I don't like to think it's that long because I could have done worse and been out.
Okay, so Alison, you said you lived in Paisley till you were 21. That was, I'm not going to give ages away here, but a little bit before you met Steve. What kind of line did your career take you in then?
Well, I'd always been brought up to work because my parents had shops, so I was
Right,
working from an early age.
right.
Um, and then originally I wanted to be a PE teacher.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, there was a lot of strikes in the schools, and I thought, I don't want to be involved in anything like that, because if I want to be a PE teacher, I would want to teach, not be striking. So I
Right.
decided I would go into hospitality, and so I ended up going to Napier in Edinburgh for 4 years.
Right. So studying hospitality,
Yeah, I got a
any
degree in
sort of
hospitality.
particular side, what was it, the sort of catering side, or more sort of broadly in the
It
hospitality
was
industry?
mainly management generally, but we did a lot of kitchen work and housekeeping work and things like that. So you knew what each department did.
Right.
But it was generally you would go in from there into probably a trainee management position and then work your way up within a company.
Right. Okay. So that I'm very familiar with that in the sense that I worked in a hotel school here in Michas for a number of years, and it was although people could specialize a bit more, a lot of the students were going into the management end of the hospitality industry. So Alison went into hospitality. And you jumped upon aboard the QE2, Steve.
Yes, it was brand new. Did the maiden voyage and everything. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I was an apprentice, you see, canard apprentice.
Right.
Or
Okay.
student cooks, they used to call us.
A student cook.
Yeah. I don't think you can get better training because you couldn't buy like mayonnaise in a jar or the ice cream. Everything was made, so the training
Right.
was quite superb, really.
Right. So you were on the maiden voyage of the QE2 then?
Yes, yeah. I joined it just before, but when we still had the builders on board still,
What
What
was?
it was, I saw her being launched.
All right. You didn't know he was on because you didn't know him at
No, he
that
wasn't
point.
I was
then.
on it then.
I was
yeah.
8 years old, and she was being launched from Greenock,
Right.
and I was down there taking pictures of it.
Yeah. So, there are all sorts of stories about maiden voyages. Steve, how was the maiden voyage from your
Well, there
perspective?
was two because we broke down on the first one on the way to the farm. And it broke down quite a lot, I'm afraid, the QE2.
Really?
Sometimes it's quite handy if you're in New York or somewhere. It's great.
Yeah.
That was our other home port, was New York. So that's
Yeah.
how I got to go to Woodstock.
But what sort of? I mean, I know that there are cruise ships now, way bigger than the QE2
Oh,
was.
yeah.
But in its day, what kind of capacity would it have had for passengers and crew?
It's 1,800.
1,800 passengers, and how many
Yeah.
crew would be on there as well?
1,200 crew.
Right. So you're just about talking. I think the ratio is more or less the same, even on these huge things. That the number of passengers and the number of crew, there's not this huge difference between the two of them. Yeah.
No, well, there's so much to do, from laundry, you name it, and usually on cruise liners you get extremely well looked after.
Yeah.
You do, and it takes a lot of people to do that.
Yeah. And what was life like for the crew on this? I mean, it was the sort of top of the range in its day, wasn't it? How was life for the
Yeah,
crew?
but for us it was quite good because we actually had 2-berth cabins.
All right. Okay.
So you went round and looked at a couple of P&O boats, and there's like 8 in a cabin, and in the crew, and we were in 2 berths, which was actually very good. Some were single berth for the senior people, but yeah, it was fantastic. Man.
Excellent. Okay, so you were 8. Stephen was on the QE2, and you were watching him launch off to his first breakdown.
That was the bare bones we saw being launched. She hadn't been fully refitted.
She hadn't been fully fitted. So how did you guys actually eventually meet up?
We met at Coyle Bridge Hotel in Aviemore.
Oh, I know that well. Is it still
Yeah.
is it still there, Alison?
Yeah, it's still there, but it's not. It was owned by Stackis when we met,
Yes.
and we were both working there.
Ah, right. Well, actually, it's strange because when my kids were relatively young, we used to go to Coyle Bridge with them, usually at Easter time,
Right.
which was, you expected there was a reasonable break in the weather because it's pretty far north in Scotland, for those that don't know. And we used to spend Easter weekends there with them for a number of years at Coyle Bridge. So I don't know, maybe you guys were there at the time.
Well, 80. I was in Aviemore from 84 to 86, 88. 88. Because I originally worked at the Aviemore Centre.
Right, okay. Well, my kids were born in 83, so we could well have just crossed paths there without knowing it. God, it's amazing, isn't it? But there are more cross paths that we're going to be talking about as well,
Yeah.
between your life in the UK and coming down here to the Costa del Sol. Okay, so you got together and you thought, let's open a restaurant. Is that how it worked?
No, we went from Aviemore down to London.
Okay.
And Steve was working originally in one of the hotels, and then you worked in the Audley at Mayfair.
Uh-huh.
And I was working at the Sheraton. And at the Audley Mayfair, you were talking to somebody saying how we were looking for something to run ourselves or as a management team.
Yeah.
And he met this guy that owned a pub restaurant down in Hythe Marina Village in Southampton.
Okay.
So we ended up meeting him, and he offered us a job. So we ended up down there at the Lock and Key, which was a lovely venue.
Yeah, great place.
In a fantastic location. And we were there for 2.5 years.
Yeah, brilliant.
It was brilliant.
And we both sail, you see, and we're right on a marina.
So it was excellent.
Never
Right.
had to buy a boat, and when you're going out on a £2 million boat, it's just great, we just crewed on it.
So that was your first sort of joint venture into
Yeah.
the catering industry, and so I guess it was a typical pub in the sense that people came there to drink, but also but with food being served, Stephen. Yeah.
Yeah, we had
Yeah.
3 floors.
Oh,
The restaurant was over 2 floors, and there was 96 covers up there, and then we had the bar downstairs, which is the whole basement of the building,
hmm,
and it looked right onto the marina and over to Southampton.
wow.
It's really nice.
Big operation, really. It was absolutely excellent. Yeah, super.
Then we would take 26 grand a week sometimes.
Yeah.
Wow, my goodness.
All those years ago.
Yeah.
And the funny
Yeah.
thing is that the managing director said, we opened up, he says, it was a brand new place. We hadn't been open for about a year. So he says, we've done, the best we've done, he says, was the opening week, and it was 18,000. He said, I don't think you'll ever get anywhere near that. He said, but don't worry, we've been there for 3 months. We're getting into the 20 grand.
Right.
20 odd grand. And he was a very happy man. He really was.
Yeah. So you were there for say about 3 years,
Just over 2.5.
2.5 years, and then what happened after that?
We moved to the Isle of Gigha.
That was when you went to Gigha, right?
Yes.
For for those who don't know, can you explain where the Isle of Gigha is?
It's halfway down Kintyre on the west coast of Scotland, between Islay and Kintyre.
Right,
And it's one of Scotland's smallest inhabited islands.
right,
It's only 6 miles long, 1.5 at its widest point, and has about varying between 100 and 120 residents at any one time.
right. So there wasn't really anywhere to go for long walks, was there?
Well, you could go around it.
You go around, yeah.
Several times. I mean, I have to say, I've visited some of the islands, not as many as I would have liked to. I haven't been to Gigha, but we quite often watch programs. Particularly, Vicky's got this sort of passion about Scotland, and we see the islands, and she says, "Oh my God, it looks so beautiful." What was the reality of living on Gigha? Come on, guys.
Well, you get several jobs, you see. We went to run the hotel and the
Self-catering.
self-catering.
Right.
And what else was on there? No, nothing.
No,
No, that was just those 2
Yeah.
things when we first joined it.
And then we grew it a bit more.
Yeah. We had a little bistro on the foreshore as well.
Right.
That most of the residents used to go in,
was
never
a tea
paid a
shop.
penny or whatever. They're all given in. The island folk, sorry to say, but they steal everything off you near it. Your coal goes missing and stuff out the shed. But it's normal.
By the way, that's
Yeah.
probably it goes back to the days of this sort of idea of community living, where everything
Yeah,
belongs to
yeah.
everyone.
The laird was never on the island. Malcolm Poetry, the chap that owned the island, he was
Right.
never on the island anyway. And a lot of it you just don't bother about. He didn't live there.
No, we didn't live there.
Thank
It was-
you. And then we started to do other things. Alison opened up a craft shop,
Right.
all for the laird, and which was just a store area. So she
it was
opened
a
a
shed
craft
before,
shop.
yeah.
Then we refurbed the
Always.
Boathouse Bistro.
Mhm.
We totally refurbed that because we were starting, because we're quite well known in the sailing industry. We started to get
Oh, we've
a lot
just
of yachties in
yeah.
the bay. So
yeah.
we yachts in at night. So that really paid dividends. And that did really, really well. Then Ackamore House, which was the laird's house, we started to rent it out for weddings and things.
Did he know about it?
No,
yeah.
not at first he didn't. No, he wasn't very happy because there was an airstrip on the island.
All right.
Which he built, and because I'm then I was a licensed radio operator, and I got the job as the air traffic controller as well.
You didn't. You weren't the local postman as well, then, Stephen. No.
No, that was Seamus McSporran, his name was. He had the shop and all that sort of
He's
stuff.
in the Guinness Book of Records as having the most jobs in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And he really was called Seamus McSporran.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was amazing, really. You get loads of jobs. Then we joined the fire brigade as well.
The
So
bucket and spade, firewood.
it's all voluntary, you know.
Was it done by a horse and cart, or did they actually have a motorized one?
But it was that the laird flew in one day, and I said to him, "That's Malcolm on the phone. He's on his way back." And we'd got the fashion group. Who was it?
Can't remember now.
Can't remember now. But a very famous fashion. We'd rented the house out to them.
Oh, right. Okay.
So luckily, we'd still got a room in the hotel. So he stayed. He wasn't a happy man until he'd seen how much we were charging and going into his bank account.
Ah.
And I got a hug off him. Well done.
So tell me, your bistro in the boathouse, was that the Blue Marlin?
No.
No.
It
We
was
just called the Boathouse Bistro.
the boathouse bistro.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we refurbed everything from the takings we took in the hotel. So it cost Malcolm next to nothing. We ran it like our own business, if you like.
Right.
And he was very happy with
Yeah,
that.
he was extremely happy. I mean, it even paid for our wedding and and our trip to Florida and a whole lot. He paid for it all.
Because we got married in the island.
Yeah, we got married on the island.
Right.
Yeah, so it was actually a great place to be, quite frankly, and it was. But unfortunately, it's all crashed.
And
The Interalliance Bank of Zurich called Malcolm in. I'm going to be careful what I'm saying. It's the truth. You know? And so anyway, they sent him bankrupt. And the two guys that did it ended up getting fired because they shouldn't really have done it. You know?
Right. Okay.
So everybody got evicted from the island, where you got eviction notices.
and chopped on your
Yeah,
front
chalked
door.
on your front door and all
you
sorts.
know.
So we just said, well, we don't know what's going to be happening in the future, so we left there. You know, but
Right.
we really enjoyed it while we were there. We took that from the best it had ever done was 76,000 in a year.
Right.
We were doing now for Malcolm over 300,000 a year.
Right.
We did a lot of advertising. We had 500 day trippers a day on the ferry.
Because Acamore Gardens were open to the public, and they were the best rhododendron gardens on the west coast of that.
Right.
And it had some very rare trees. One was there's a couple from China that had gone extinct in China, and some Chinese people came over and took cuttings.
Right.
So they're going to have to reinstall them into China. It's amazing.
Okay.
The oldest Viking scales also were found on Gigha.
All right. Yeah. I mean, a lot of Viking activity in all these islands, wasn't there?
Yeah, there was.
Yeah. So, okay. So you're on the island of Gigha. You broke it. So you had, you had to leave. Where did you go after that, guys?
Well, we had friends that fortunately had a house in, where was it?
On the borders.
On the borders, can't remember where it is
On the
now.
town, yeah.
And they let us stay in that because we know where to live, because obviously.
Right. Yeah. You've been
that's
living
what it was.
there. Yeah.
Well, there was places we could go, but we didn't want to. You know, parents and things like that.
Uh-huh.
So we had a couple of months looking for something. So we ended up going down to a place called Standerwick, which is near Frome.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I grew up running a pub there.
I know Frome well.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
It's where they make all the cider.
Okay, yeah, okay. It's down in cider country. Okay,
But we didn't stay there long. We didn't really like the person we were working for. So that was like, we had another friend who had a hotel chain and he was looking for some help. So he took us in as troubleshooters at this hotel up north, where we did discover there was things going wrong.
That's the reason he asked us to go to this place.
right.
And,
Okay.
and it's where the you call it
The Stone of Destiny.
the Stone of Destiny.
was
When it
Ah.
was
hidden in
stolen,
there.
it was hidden there apparently under the stairs.
okay.
For quite a few years. Yeah. What was the name of the place?
Covenant.
Oh, the Covenanters Inn. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you go up there, you do a bit of troubleshooting, you get things
Yeah.
sorted out, and I'm people are going to be wondering, what's the Blue Marlin? Well, for we're going to be talking a lot about your move to Spain, probably after the break, but the Blue Marlin is one of the things that you guys are well known down in this area of the world for, because, but it wasn't the first Blue Marlin, was it?
No, we had two others.
You had two others, yeah.
Yeah.
When did that come around then, and how did you decide? Well, the Blue Marlin has to be a fish restaurant, doesn't it? I mean, it has to be
There
primarily.
wasn't one in the Dundee area, you see.
Ah, okay.
There was fish and chip bars and things like
Yeah.
that, but there was no dedicated seafood restaurant.
Right.
So we thought I'd just go to seafood. So it's quite good. And I took an old Indian restaurant on because the guy that owned it gave me such a good deal. It's 100 quid a week for this restaurant, you know. So I took it on, refurbed the inside of it and the outside, and did the Blue Marlin, and it was very successful.
Yeah. And you know, Steve, you did your apprenticeship and you spent years working on cruise ships. You know, you must have got some, well, great training and great ideas for not just the food to cook, but you know, I believe on these cruise ships and the restaurants, it's the presentation, it's the service,
Yes.
it's everything, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the first class.
Right.
And there's also a separate restaurant you could go to, which you actually paid extra for.
All right.
Go into, and that was absolutely superb. It really, really was. It's, you know,
Uh-huh. And as a chef on these cruise ships, did you move around different restaurants, or did you find yourself kind of stuck in one place?
I was only allowed while I was an apprentice to work in first class.
All right. Okay.
So,
that-
and also the upmarket restaurants, I used to do that quite a bit as well.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it's say the training, you couldn't get better. You know.
Right. So you now have Blue Marlin version 1.0 in Dundee.
In
Monifeith.
Monifeith.
the old Indian restaurant. Yeah,
All right. Okay.
and we're in there for a few years. It just got too small.
Right. That's a very nice complaint, isn't it?
Yeah. And plus the people we had in there, you know, from Rod Stewart, Alice Cooper we had in there, and the Saturdays, Katie Tunstall, a lot of very famous golfers. I didn't know any of them. I don't golf.
Right.
And a very famous footballer whose girlfriend wasn't very impressed because I didn't know who he was. Well, I was going around the restaurant, you see, and just speak to everybody. You know?
Yeah, sure.
Just next along from Carnoustie, so when all the Open was on and things like that, we used to get a lot of them in.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Did you find, you know, I mean, we Scots can be a bit sort of brutal about our eating habits, you know, and fish has to be served with chips,
And nae bones.
and nae bones, and some vinegar and brown sauce on it, you know.
Yeah.
Did you find that, you know, setting up this kind of specialist fish restaurant, it was kind of locals that were coming into it, or was it
locals,
more, you know, people that were visiting the area and perhaps had these higher expectations?
We didn't serve fish and chips.
No, that's the point I'm making.
3 doors down, there was a chip shop. That's
Right. Uh-huh. So you had some locals, but a lot of it was a sort of moving trade, people coming to play golf, or I don't know, whatever people do in Monifeith.
Yeah, and the musicians we used to get quite a lot because we never called the press, and that's why these people came in.
Oh, how do you mean you never called the? Oh, because, all right, I understand.
Yeah,
Right,
a lot of people. So you get somebody like that in, then you want to make your restaurant phone. You phone the press up, you know, and you get a report outside.
Right.
You.
Okay.
And that's how Rod Stewart came, because you know he wanted a private dinner, which we gave him. Alison had dinner with him actually, privates with his people, and so because he knew already this is what we already did.
Right, but you did get your photo taken with him, Steve.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And Lorraine Kelly was regular as well.
All right, yeah. She was a niece of someone I worked with in Stirling. Yet another little connection.
Yeah.
So, Alison, were you kind of front of house in the restaurant and
You were at uni.
Yeah, but I was always front of house. I was
always front of house, but she didn't open the restaurant with me actually.
No, it's Craig.
My son owned it.
Right, okay.
Alison had a very, very good job at Dundee University running all the catering.
Right.
Just
Well, do so.
Yeah.
Well, he did private parties.
Yeah. So just before we go into a break, where was the Blue Marlin 2.0?
In Dundee itself.
on the docks.
On the
That
docks.
was in Dundee, yeah. Because somebody did comment to me about it. They knew the Blue Marlin in Dundee.
Yeah, we were. Yeah. And that became very famous. We won 3 Restaurant of the Year awards there.
Right.
And again, we had a lot of famous people in there as well.
Yeah.
Jerry Marsden,
Susan Boyle.
Susan Boyle. Yeah, oof, she wouldn't want Susan Boyle, didn't she? She was hard work. God, was she?
He didn't get her to sing for you.
No.
Right. I think we should take a short break on that, and we're going to talk about in the second half about how you guys ended up down here and Blue Marlin 3.0. And although someone warned me, Steve, don't talk to Steve about Brexit.
That's
So-
old hat now.
Yeah, so I'm not going to. I'm going to talk to Alison about it because she's on the Brexpats in Spain group. So
Yes, she is.
Dave is going to put some Rod Stewart on for us just now. We'll take a short
All right,
break
yeah.
and we will be back and talk about the next part of your lives, Guy. Welcome back. I'm Bill Anderson. I'm coming live from the Costa del Sol, and I have two guests today, Alison and Steve Hyatt, who have been telling us about, well, the parts of their life before they ended up down here as our neighbours on the Costa del Sol. And we've already got past your restaurant, which was very well known down here, the Blue Marlin, version 1.0, version 2.0. Now, what could possibly have made you guys decide to come to Spain when you're living in Dundee?
Well, I wanted to move to Florida.
Did you?
So I've lived in the States before.
Right.
So I love Florida. But Alison thought it was too far to go.
Not like that. There's some horrendous stories come out of America. People have set up businesses, and then because they didn't have enough American employees and things like that, that they were fined so much, and
Right.
it was just so much easier moving within what we knew at that
Well,
time.
we
as
knew the
EU,
area as well.
which-
Right. So
We were members of Club La Costa
aye. Well,
so we used to come here.
that's incredible because so was I before we my late wife and I moved to Spain. It was Club La Costa introduced us to this area, really.
Yeah.
Same with us.
Yeah.
It's like, I can't believe it. I mean, we've had dinner together, but that never actually came up in the conversation. So it's just amazing how many sort of little crossovers that there are in people's lives, and you just sort of miss each other by a hair, you know. So you've been coming back and forward to this area, and you gave up on your Florida dream then, Steve, did you?
Yeah, well, she's the boss, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, so we came here. We were going to open a restaurant called Latitude 36.
All right.
We weren't going to be just doing seafood, you see.
It's going to be more bistro, more casual.
Yeah, more
style.
bistro casual type thing. And we got a phone call from somebody said, have you opened another Latitude 36 up at Micas Pueblo? I said, no.
Oh.
Well, there's one just opened.
Oh, right.
So we went up to have a look. And there it was. Our logos, our name.
So,
They stole the name, basically.
right.
When we were going to see the agents, there's several agents here that you go and, you talk to about, when you're purchasing a property. And they all ask you the same thing. Do you have anything, for sign writers and things like that? So, yeah, this is what we're going to be doing. I can get you some quotes and all the rest of it for you. So we gave it, you see, and we don't know which one it was, but there's a Canadian chap up in Micas Pueblo.
Yes, I know him.
that owns restaurants up there. Well, he got it.
All right.
Somehow. And then Latitude 36. And at that time, we were actually filming
Right.
for the TV program with it. And they came up with this. And how it sort of was explained to us, he got some guy, there was an Argentinian chap, which is actually because they're on the same latitude, you see. No, he was a manager. And we're on the same latitude, Latitude 36. Right? So he says, oh, I just thought of the name. Oh, I was like, that's funny. I said, because you've got all the logos as well.
So
But anyway.
there was a bit of double dealing going on somewhere in that whole process, wasn't there?
Yeah. So anyway, we were actually getting close to where we wanted to be. And Alison said, listen, we own everything with Blue Marlin. Right? We've got everything online, and it's all
Menus are there.
menus and the whole lot. Why don't we just open another Blue Marlin?
Because if not, it's going to take much longer to open up.
Yeah.
Right,
We're going
sure.
to change everything.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And of course, you're always time poor and money poor when you open restaurants.
Of
Yeah.
course, yeah.
And then I bought a guy across as well that worked me in Blue Marlin before, would have been with several other places we've had, and bought him across, opened up, bump, and
It took off.
that was just Blue Marlin.
Yeah. And okay, you've been coming up and down here on holiday, but what was it about this part of Spain? Because I guess when you were on holiday, you visited other parts of Spain as well. What was it about this part that made you sort of feel, I want to make this my home?
Well, business-wise as well, that helps because there are hardly any hotels here.
That's very true. Yeah.
So when you've got a restaurant, you don't want these hotels that do
All inclusive.
all inclusive. In
Right.
fact, we did a program actually on Channel 5 about that in Banal Medina, all about all inclusive holidays, which actually destroy your local area.
Right.
Yeah, the shops don't get used, the bars don't get used, restaurants don't get used.
Right.
And most of the people that come on holiday around this area own the property.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they'll always be coming back.
Yeah.
They own
Until
the
they-
property, or they're renting privately owned properties for holidays on a regular basis, because we have friends that rented the same place several years in a row. And yeah, when they come, they don't necessarily, it's an apartment. They don't necessarily want to cook every day and whatever. So
No.
they'll come out and use the local restaurants. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean the Blue Marlin, your Facebook page is still up and running. It used to be Blue Marlin.
Yeah.
It's like the artist that was once Prince or whatever they called it. Because I'm not going to ask you about the finances of it, but it was very well thought of, very well spoken about. Vicky and I came, had a lovely time. You see, I'm not much of a fishy man, so we don't go to a lot of fish restaurants, but it was beautiful. And people who really enjoy that kind of food just raved about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was did well financially as well.
Good, yeah.
That's why you only did 5 nights a week.
Right. Okay. But that's good. Because I mean you get your what we call here the chiringuitos, the sort of beach fish restaurants, but they're pretty rough and ready, aren't they?
Well, it's the same menu from here all the way to Barcelona. It
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
But I think they have to do that sort of food because of the Chiringuito Association. There's certain rules that they have to operate by. I mean, they upgrade a lot of them.
Yeah.
The basic menu is still the same.
Yeah, but this is Spain, so there will be rules. I mean, there's no two ways about that.
And you go to some. Honestly, I wouldn't even give my dog the food. But then you've got like La Familia, absolutely excellent.
Yeah.
One of the best pill pools on the area.
Yeah.
So some are very, very good.
Yeah, but I think particularly with the real sort of rustic beach bar restaurants, come summertime, you're always going to pay a premium either in money or in time. Because they're just so busy, and they're busy way beyond the capacity of their kitchens usually. And we went with some friends. We'd actually eaten. We were meeting them down at the beach, and they said, "Oh, we're going to go and have some lunch." Well, I think we sat for 45 minutes before they took the order.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking,
I don't know why they do that. That's fatal because but mind you, it's summer business they're looking at. But
yeah,
it's something we've always done. We've never over pressurized any area from the bar to the kitchen or whatever.
No.
You're silly to do it,
yeah. Well,
short season, remember?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting there thinking, if I came here 45 minutes ago, it's because I'm hungry now. And then 45 minutes later, they took the order. And I think it was half an hour or 40 minutes later that the food actually came. And we've been sitting there for over an hour, But that's what happens in these places in the summer. And yeah, they're great. And you got the sardines cooking on the bar, on the charcoal, the olive
In the
wood,
little
and
boat.
whatever.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean it's lovely, and the smells are really
Yeah.
nice. Even for someone who's not a big fish eater, I still love the smell of the sardines cooking. But the Blue Marlin was a very different type of experience from that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, very much different. Yeah. It was Northern European food mix. I've lived in South Africa. I've got dual nationality. And I put South African dishes on there, and and it just made things very, very different.
Hmm.
Like I did a Cape Malay curry, seafood curry, Cape Malay,
Right.
and it's a very different curry, a Cape Malay.
Yeah.
You're not going to burn your mouth out because you won't taste the food otherwise. You won't taste
Sure.
the seafood.
Sure.
That was so popular. I mean, I took it off once, and that was stupid. Let's put it back on.
Yeah, but let's face it, it was probably Alison that took all the flack for it on the front of house.
Oh, she did. Yeah.
And she went, I'll have a word with the chef.
Because we used to change things regular, like the other Blue Marlins or any restaurant we've had. We used to change things regularly,
Right.
so the customer doesn't get bored. But what happens here? You're known for that product, so just don't change it, whatever you do, because
Right.
honestly, all of the guff you can get is
And
unbelievable.
not only that, a lot of them don't live here, so they're not.
No.
They're not. I mean, we had people in Dundee that come every week.
Mm.
Right, of course. Yes.
You don't get that the same
No.
when you're in the holiday market.
You get your regulars, but the once a year.
Yeah. This is the thing here that I mean, the Cana area is so rich with good places to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's some places I wouldn't necessarily go to, but I mean, the vast majority, there's so many good places to eat.
Yeah, there is.
It's very difficult to have your local that you pop into once a week, so even for ourselves, there's not one place that we always go to, because there are just so many places that you can go to eat, and such a variety of foods. Okay, I'm going to move us on because, believe it or not, time is galloping by. But
Certainly.
you decided to retire, Steve, Alison.
We didn't
We didn't
decide to
no.
retire. We had decided that we wanted to move on,
Right.
and so we had the restaurant on the market because we still had 4 years on the lease.
Mm.
And we managed to find somebody that was interested and agreed with all the terms. But unfortunately, our landlord at the time decided he didn't want new tenants.
Right.
So
and told us we've got to stay.
So we had to just walk away,
Right.
and taking up all this fixtures and fittings with us because he didn't want to pay us for them. Which is
Right.
a shame.
But actually, he should have paid us, but he didn't. We
Yeah.
ended up going to the lawyers and things. Anyway,
But
it's all in the past now.
was this also around the COVID time?
Yes,
This was a kind of decider as well, wasn't it? And what was happening, and
not really.
no,
No, we because Steve had been really quite ill with the shingles.
right,
It was being in the kitchen all the time and the hot environment wasn't good for him.
right, okay,
So that was one of the reasons that we decided. And also our chef at the time, James, had to go back to Scotland to
Right.
deal with his family
yeah.
problems. And to get somebody to replace in this area what we were doing,
right.
just can't find them.
No.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people out there that say I'm a chef, but
There's chefs and chefs.
there's chefs and chefs. Yeah, it's like everything though, isn't it? There's mechanics and mechanics, and doctors and
Yeah.
doctors, and chefs and chefs. And given I suspect both of you that your standards, both in the kitchen and in the front of house, were quite exacting about the way things had to be prepared,
Oh, yeah.
and
Consistency is the key.
Yeah.
yeah. So finding someone to do that,
And training other people into it as well.
right.
It takes a lot of time and money to invest to get them to the standard that you want.
Right, yeah, and to get things done the way you want them done.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
because
the other problem was with Brexit, there was going to be a lack of service staff that could deal, and kitchen staff, because you weren't allowed to bring anyone over,
Mm-mm.
you know.
Yeah,
That's one of the biggest problems restaurants have got now, is the fact they can only take from Europe. And a lot of people don't want to be in the industry anymore, especially after COVID, because they
yeah,
were the ones that were hammered.
absolutely. Yeah. And you kind of got involved in the whole Brexit thing sort of through the back door in many ways, Alison, didn't you? With the Brexpats in Spain Facebook page.
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of stuff is this still dealing with now, Alison? The kind of
We're still
fallout.
dealing with a lot of deniers, that
Mhm.
think that the rules don't apply to them and they can still come and go as they like and whatever and drive their
Right.
cars or,
Driving license
you know,
problem.
Right.
work. We want to move to Spain. Can we work in hospitality? Well, only if they can't find somebody else in the EU that can't do it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, and it's difficult to get their head around it because all of the people that are working age have always thought they could do anything in the Europe,
Sure.
but then they're being treated as third nation nationals, just like the Australians, the Americans, Mexicans, whoever they are,
Russians, Chinese, or whatever. Yeah. Yeah.
But nobody listens. That's the trouble. Especially the Brits, they don't listen.
I can understand why Anne gets so
Yeah.
frustrated.
I mean, Anne Hernandez is one of the most knowledgeable people about this area in Spain and what
Absolutely.
I've ever met. And she's done wonderful stuff for us as well. Even when going to the doctors with me, got our driving licenses sorted ages ago. She's brilliant. And they don't listen to her.
No, I think there has been this problem with Brits in denial that
Yeah.
this couldn't possibly happen to me because I'm British.
Yeah.
And it did happen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's normal for Brits. As I say, I've lived in several different countries. And the Brits, they are the biggest moaners and whingers you've ever met.
I'm glad you said that, not me.
And they've all got allergies.
Oh, all right, okay.
But also, they're always blame Spain. It's not Spain.
Yeah.
Spain didn't vote for the UK to leave.
No, I know.
You know, and that's the rules that have always been there. It's like being a member of a golf club. You can't just say you want to play the 16th hole and the 19th hole or have a drink.
Spain's punishing me because I can't go anymore.
Well, I think this is certainly, I deal with a lot less than the Brexpats pages of all this stuff, but I still get stuff on a weekly basis directly related to Brexit. And I think for some people, it's still, even though we're several years on now, it still hasn't sunk in that we're not part of the European community, European Union, and we can't just come over to Spain and work for the summer.
Or go to the mountains in the skiing season and work for the winter.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's really quite a tough job in some ways, dealing with the sort of admin of a page like this that's getting hundreds and hundreds of posts and comments and whatever. And people's tempers get pretty frayed sometimes, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And some people are just downright rude, especially to some of the moderators.
Yeah. So what do you see, guys, as next for you here? Enjoy Spain, enjoy retirement, or do you have other
We still
plans?
might do something else yet. Let's see.
Okay.
Never say never.
We actually miss what we do. We really do.
Right. Yeah.
We enjoyed it.
Because it's such an intense industry to work in, isn't it? And working in it for so many years is very intense.
It's very enjoyable.
But it's so enjoyable. Yeah, the people you meet, and it's great.
We'd never have met you.
Well, this is very true. This is very true. And yeah, and I can identify with that through my work as a local councillor, that I get to meet and talk to people that probably I would never bump into in just sort of normal circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've still got many, many good friends for over the last 30 odd years that we still see.
Right. Yeah.
And it's usually because they've been to our restaurant or
Yeah.
worked for us.
Alison, Steve, thank you so much for joining me today. It's
Thank you
been
for
it's
inviting
been
us.
fun.
Been great.
Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We'll keep in touch, obviously. Thanks to everyone who's been listening in today. Have a wonderful weekend, and we shall be back next week. Take care, everyone, from the Costa del Sol.